From time to time, we should expose ourselves to different philosophies to expand our mind. We may or may not agree with all the precepts of a particular philosophy, but it's still good to expose ourselves to it, to think about what we do and don't want to do. From that point of view, I wanted to talk about extreme programming, which is a variant of agile. It's a philosophy that was, it's a methodology that was created in the 2000s. The basic philosophy is if something is a good idea, let's do more of it. Right? Extreme programming, take things to the extreme. So let's look at some practices of XP as it's called. First is test driven development. If unit tests are good, let's write more of those. And in TDD, you write the tests first, then have them fail. Because you don't have any implementation, right? You write the tests, then you define an interface, then you define a stub implementation that returns 0 or something like that. Then obviously the test will fail. Then you write just enough implementation to make it work. Then when you want to add functionality, you first write a test for the added functionality, see it fail, and then implement the functionality and make it pass. I haven't tried TDD, but it's an interesting methodology or philosophy. The next principle of XP is listening. Engineers must listen to what the customers are saying. Many engineers think it's irrelevant and coding is the main point, but code that solves a wrong problem is useless. The next philosophy or principle of XP is Yagni, YAGNI, which stands for you aren't going to need it. Don't implement unnecessary functionality. The other principle is don't do a big design upfront. Sometimes people draw these very fancy architecture diagrams and try to design everything ahead of time. What the big design upfront or the discouragement of big design upfront does is you can do design. Don't do a big design. Don't try to design everything comprehensively. Let it evolve, which leads to a better design because you can't foresee how things will be. The next principle of extreme programming is that you get feedback from the customer every 2-3 weeks. And if you need input more often, he is always available. The customer is always available. The next principle of XP is pair programming. You work in a pair. And the claim is that it leads to better code with fewer bugs. The next principle is to work only 40 hours. It's unfortunate that we have to say only in today's world of overwork, but otherwise the quality of work suffers. The next principle of XP is that you need to have minimum gap between action and feedback. So when you do something, you get feedback, which helps you improve. And if there's a lot of gap, the signal gets muddled. You don't understand what you're getting feedback for and whether it worked or not, so you can't improve. The next principle of XP is refactoring. Instead of a big design upfront, as the design is revealed, you keep refactoring. And refactoring means changing the structure without changing the meaning of the program, the results of the program. The next principle of XP is continuous integration. Instead of each engineer working in a separate branch for a long time and integrating later, you should integrate every day, multiple times a day. The next principle of XP is coding standards. A team needs to have a coding standards document written down and agree on what are the standards that we are going to follow. The final principle of XP is small releases. Release early, release often. That way you get faster feedback. See the point earlier about feedback. And the context is in your mind. It's fresh, so you can easily debug what went wrong. And you'll avoid doing further work that all needs to be redone. So these are some principles of extreme programming which are definitely worth thinking about, maybe even worth trying. If you haven't tried TDD, try it. Who knows whether it will work or not for you. Hope you found this useful. If you'd like to be notified when I post more videos like this, subscribe to this channel. Thank you.